Try to imagine a group of people setting off on a difficult mountain climbing expedition. In the group, there are 3 types of people, and we can find each type deep within ourselves: the tired, the joyful, and the ambitious. The tired ones are sorry they had to leave the mountain refuge. The fatigue and the dangers seem out of proportion to the achievement hoped for, so they turn back. The joyful are not sorry to have left. The sun is shining and there's a beautiful view, but why bother to climb any higher? They enjoy the mountain right where they are. They lie down in the grass or they explore the area as they wait for the picnic. The ambitious, the real mountaineers, keep their eyes fixed on the summit, which they are determined to reach. They keep going. For them, life means climbing and discovering. Patrick is a mountain guide and an alpinist of international renown. He has climbed the north faces of the highest alpine peaks, such as this one, the Eiger, with its 1,800 meters of sheer rock face. He has opened over 300 new mountain routes all over the world. And yet, in spite of this astonishing success story, his first concern is not success. Each project begins when an itinerary attracts him by its beauty, the purity of its line, or its fullness. "Praise be to you, my Lord," sang St. Francis of Assisi. Patrick is inspired by the simple but intense desire to celebrate the beauty of the world. As a convinced Christian, he radiates something that touches all those he accompanies.
I come from a family of 5 children. I'm the second child in our family. We were a family living in the country and in the town. My first 2 years were spent in Normandy, in the city of Évreux, where my father worked. After that, I spent 7 years in Paris, and then almost the whole time in the country. I was, let's say, a very unruly child. My parents looked for a place where I could calm down a little, and I found myself in an unusual type of boarding school, an old castle that had been bequeathed to the monks of Saint Vincent de Paul. These monks made a really profound impression on me by their authentic way of life. Their love was really totally free and overflowing with the presence of God. As the years went by, I felt a strong desire to become a philosophy teacher in a lycée. But as I approached the exams, I decided, I felt, rightly or wrongly, it wasn't such an easy decision, that I had to get into mountaineering. When you talk about mountains, it's not just a question of altitudes, but about everything that makes up the mountains. Together with my brother Philippe, we felt that this was the environment we were made for. There was something that attracted us, the landscape, the mystery, the beauty up there.
We came to the mountains knowing practically nothing except what we'd read in books.
But in fact, I very quickly felt at home in this profession. Because in fact, I had entered a field where the intellect is also put to work, as you have to understand situations and people. Because it's a job which is both practical and relational. And so to generalize, I'd say, looking back, that I believe my choice was the right one. I've been able to make many people happy and also to find fulfillment myself.
The
older you get, the more you see that each one of us has gifts. Some have higher gifts. For example, some are able to learn a language in a few weeks, while others cannot. Then you realize that perhaps you are just above average, but you're fortunate enough to find the place where you can best express your capabilities. And what is especially beautiful in the profession of mountain guide is that since it's relational, and you have to say yes to that, since it's a profession where relationships are important, it involves a lot of sharing and of giving, and in that way you progress professionally. There's really something for everyone, for all tastes and all abilities, even for walkers.
Today, Patrick is accompanying Marie-Agnès, who at the age of 66 is at last fulfilling her dream to climb a big mountain circuit with a guide.
But today we're going to go far to the left, where there is this area which looks like a heart-shaped mirror, and then we get directly to the flat stones. It's simply the path to the flat stones. You can't describe a rock face, because a rock face is absolutely enormous. Imagine an ant standing at the foot of a fir tree. The ant is completely lost, and then it starts to move. You're a bit the same. Sometimes I say to people, are you conscious of your heart beating without your being aware of it, or that your lungs allow you to breathe? The moment you get up from a chair, there are several incredible interactions between the brain, the ground, your sight, whether it's flat or not, and so on. It only takes the slightest upset, something negligible, and you can't keep on walking. This can happen to anyone. So we say, thank you for the miracle that I am.
Ouais, c'est bon pour toi.
This is a lovely place to start, but you have to get used to the feel of this type of rock and how to grip it.
Okay.
It's wonderful, taking us to a magical place like this. I'm completely confident. He's someone I can trust in his relationship to the mountains, to himself, and to others. I never thought that one day I would be able to enjoy this. As a careful forward planner, Patrick takes advantage of the faults in the mountains. He uses the cracks to install belay devices or security pitons. He uses the natural terraces to install anchors and so make sure of the rope team's safety.
I must have a complete trust in the other person, who has to protect me by being really concentrated, well-intentioned and watchful. With the anchors, it's easier for me, but I must still stay alert to everything that I feel. I feel a lot of movement over the rope, hesitations, backward movements, forward leaps. It's incredible, the rope. You have the impression it's talking. And there we are. Being connected by rope means that as long as you do not untie the knots, you are really tied together. That's something extraordinary in a world where everyone aims to be independent and never to depend on anyone else. Of course, everyone has his own part to play. The leader also takes the risk of falling. He has to check the belay equipment and at the same time fully relying on his partner's belay equipment.
Thank you for your patience.
Here comes the big moment, but it's not easy. But later it will be less exhausting. We're going to cross what's behind us, then come back over the large flat stones a bit, like the ones you can see behind you. Stand firmly on your feet. Have confidence. There's the rope in front of you. You can do it. Keep going. Come and join me over here. This is where the belay station is. Stay underneath.
I'm going to slip down.
You've been going for 3 hours. You haven't slipped yet. Look what huge strides you're making. You're walking very well now.
I feel as if I was in a dream coming true.
Yes, step by step.
Even if I feel a little tired, I think I'll make it.
You have to in any case.
There's no choice. I never thought I'd be able to climb that one day.
Yeah, it's a real rock face.
Il Signore è con te. Tu sei benedetta fra le donne e benedetto è il frutto del tuo seno, Gesù.
I always say that being a mountain guide is a privilege, because you're often in parts of the world which are profoundly beautiful. Up there, you're fulfilling dreams that are in you, but they won't necessarily make you powerful or rich, or even make you the owner of the summit. No, you're passing through. But you are fulfilling a dream which will get inside you and stay in you. And that's why I often say the mountain guide is a mediator of dreams, not flights of fancy, but dreams which will lead you towards what's true and concrete. Because it's a fight, a mountain. There's nothing virtual about it. And I love the word dream because it includes both the impulse and the fulfillment when you arrive at the summit. And so when someone says, "You fulfilled your dream of getting to a summit," what it means is that at a certain moment you've got married to one of Earth's shapes, which is in contact with heaven. No need to go further. What that means is that during your life as a human, you've been in a place of rare beauty, one which is a founding element in the path of your life.
Not far from where he lives, there's an old convent of Carthusian monks. The Carmelite house, the Reposoir, which is where Patrick likes to contemplate and pray. This is where he finds his inner strength.
Since my early childhood, I have always had a deep devotion to the Virgin Mary, who helps us enter into the mystery of the birth of Christ. His life and his resurrection, in which she has a full part. That was something fundamental for me, and it still is today.
La Chartreuse, elle représente un exemple humain avec.
La Chartreuse is an example of humanity, with its weaknesses, but also with infinite light, with men and also women who testify with the whole of their solitary lives that humanity is destined for eternity, destined for God.
Est faite pour l'éternité, est faite pour Dieu. Voilà. Et ça me remplit quelque part.
And this offers me fulfillment. I don't necessarily come here to find new energy. It all depends. There are days when life doesn't feel good, you feel dry, and yet you come here because you know somehow there is truth here. Truth which deeply and definitively answers life's questions. It's now 25 years since I was at the base camp of Mount Everest in an attempt to be the first to make the descent on skis. We'd already made one attempt, I and a friend, Marc Battard, on the south face. But there we met with a storm, and so we had to come down. One morning, during the time we were spending at the base camp, a friend took me out of the tent and said, "Look, you're going to have to be very brave." And then told me that they'd heard through the mail of something which had happened several weeks earlier, the death of my best friend, Alexis, my rope team brother. And then I felt all my vital strength ebbing away little by little. Friends helped me as if I was ill, with no energy left. And next morning I went out, and I saw a tiny animal called a pika, something between a mouse and a rabbit, which lives in that part of the world. So I saw it suddenly and watched it. Hop it went, hop into a hole. And just by concentrating completely on that, I felt revived and my life returning. And then I vowed that I would go to the summit of Mount Everest for Alexis. So I went back, but I really suffered from the wind, from carrying the skis and so on. At 8,600 meters, my feet were really beginning to freeze. 8,600 meters is not really very far, but it's still very far from the summit. And there I decided to stop. So it was difficult, but at the same time wonderful. I said to myself, because you decided to do this for Alexis, you have done it, but without any glory for yourself. You just had the suffering and the effort and so on. And somehow, I want to say, so much the better.
Today, Patrick has set his sights on the north face of the Eiger, and his rope companion is Michel Coronat. This is the largest north face of the Alps. It's a massive rock, 1,800 meters high, almost completely vertical, and even overhanging in some places. It has long been considered by alpinists as one of the last remaining problems in the Alps.
There's black ice everywhere, you have to watch your feet. How's Michel today? Fine, thanks. This rock face, which had the reputation of being extremely complicated, very long, very hard, with many crossings and often no turning back, was the dream of their lives for many alpinists, especially Germans and Austrians. So it attracted very strong young climbers, 20 or 21 or 22 years old, with nerves of steel, who imagined themselves to be immortal. But of course there were many mortal catastrophes. So this rock wall became famous because of all these accidents. And at one time there was a plan to prohibit access before it had even been climbed. Dream weather. Shall we try the slope? It's the slope we've heard so much about. What an incredible route.
At nightfall, after the day's climb, it's time for the bivouac.
The problem of death is often present for us here in the mountains. The possibility of death brings up questions, or at least encourages us to live much more intensively in what we're doing and in our relationships. Good morning, everyone. We're impatient for our cappuccinos, but still, we had a good night here on this terrace. Today we're off to the Traversée des Dieux, Crossing of the Gods. What a fantastic name. Death can hit us in the mountains, but also on a road or in everyday life. So I think that what's important is to realise, if you're living your life with full energy, that when you leave your house, for example to do the shopping, you may not be the one who opens the door on your return. The mountains remind you often of this, and so remind you to be cautious, but also remind you of your mortality.
Wow! Hop là! Yes! Merci.
Thanks up there. It's now over 40 years that I've been in the mountains, in many different ways, on easy summits, in perfect weather, or on very risky expeditions. Let me say that what's important is to write pages like that as fully as possible, then to turn the page. Sometimes it's not as easy as all that, but there we are. In any case, the last page opens into eternity.
For as the rain and the snow come down from heaven and do not return there until they have watered the earth, making it bring forth and sprout, giving seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so shall be the word that goes out from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but it shall accomplish that which I purpose and succeed in the thing for which I sent it. For you shall go out in joy and be led back in peace. The mountains and the hills before you shall burst into song, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands.